Hey everybody, welcome to OpWoo for the week of August 24th. It's a very special week because we are sandwiched right in between the release of Seven Deadly Sins, which was this weekend. Thank you for all that support. And next weekend, which is the filming of our next short film, On the Road Again, where Maximilian and JJ are both coming to town to participate in that shoot. And I'm very excited about being reunited with them, as well as being reunited with Michael Smallwood for the first time in like 6 months as well on that film. So it's very exciting for us at the end of August. I don't know where time has gone. It seems like just yesterday it was Pride in June. But we are going into September with more stuff to share with you. But today we want to talk about synths. So I want to get through OpWoo, all the normal stuff we do, Patreon, Twitch, all that. And then at the end, after Fan Art of the Week, I'll open a Q&A for as long as you guys want. I have a little Q&A box there. It's called Stream Q&A. It's a little box down there. Down here, somewhere under here. I don't know if it's available on mobile. I think it might be. But you can leave questions in that box, and you can also leave questions in the chat, and the mods will maybe collect them. But I would say mostly go for the box if you can, because it allows us to kind of collect everything, and it makes it a lot easier on the mods. Thank you, John Hale, for the bits. John knows that I went through a hell of a time with synths and dealing with After Effects and 3D motion tracking and stuff. John is a wonderful 3D artist who always goes through a lot of trouble with After Effects himself. So I hope he appreciated the effects in Seven Deadly Sins, even though he definitely could have done better than I did. But anyway, moving on, I just want to point out that we did have some Seven Deadly Sins merch that went on the Etsy store last Monday, in case you missed it. This is about half out of stock now. I shipped all of the existing merch stuff today, so if you ordered last week, then you should be getting it soon. Hopefully, it is going out this week. It is shipped. I took care of all of it. So yeah. Nova, it didn't ship yesterday. It ships today because I marked it as complete yesterday, but it was a Sunday, so they had to pick it up today. But yeah, everybody who ordered stuff, it's going out today. And international folks, I hope it doesn't take 10 weeks to get your stickers, God willing. And there's also Seth Iggy's, in addition to these holographic Seven Deadly Sins stickers as well. And then there's some Seven Deadly Sins stuff on Redbubble as well. There's the logo. You can get the logo on all kinds of things. So you can check out either of those stores. And through the next few months, I will definitely be updating that. I have a few more ideas for Synth stuff. I also have a Synths item that is coming in tomorrow that I'll probably share next Monday. It's a limited run of something really special. So hopefully that'll interest you. And then there's some other stuff as well that I have planned that isn't Synths related for the next few months too. So keep an eye on OpWoo, because I have more merch. I always have more merch. I always have more designs. It's a consistent revolving door. But as far as other stuff that's happening this week, on Patreon, we got more Seven Deadly Sins pictures, the last run of them on Wednesday before the month is out. On Friday, we have a Seven Deadly Sins deleted scene. Now, anybody who is interested in a little bit more about the characters, this is a very, very character-driven deleted scene. The reason it was deleted is because it just kind of didn't come out in the footage, like the sound and the visuals were a little off. I just didn't feel like it was, kind of solid enough to put in the movie. It also feels very redundant with another scene that happens in the movie, so I cut it, but you'll learn a lot more about Seth, Mag, and Jared in this scene, so I think that might be of interest to you, and it might also feed some fan theories that you've been having about how the Seven Deadly Sins work as well. We'll see. Now, for $25 and $50 patrons, we have a monthly group call live stream. This month it's going to be a live watch of a film. I think I'm only going to do this one time slot instead of two, but today I'm going to put up a poll asking for the time slot preference and the movie preference. We're going to choose between Clue, Batman and Robin, and The Fifth Element. And depending upon which one wins, we'll be doing that sometime this week or possibly next week. Hopefully I can do it this week, and we can just jump right into that, because I know that if you're a $25 or $50 patron, you want to be able to keep that benefit and not have to carry it over into next month necessarily. But yeah, and as far as the $50 calls, I'm going to try to get with people this week about when to schedule those, but those are probably going to be next week. As far as who I'm actually going to talk to. I think that it's just easier for me, especially like being sandwiched between Sense and Opwu, or not Opwu, on the road again. And, you know, having Maximilian in town for like 4 straight days through the weekend, it's a lot to manage. And one person actually messaged me like 3 weeks ago, and they were like, hey, so like, I know you're really busy, so maybe we should go ahead and plan that call. And I was like, you're very smart. I am going to still procrastinate and not figure out when to do that. You know who you are. So yeah, anyway, that's what's coming up on Patreon if you are a patron currently. I got some really cool stuff. Oh, good God, Jesus Christ. I got some really cool stuff coming next month on Patreon. You will find out about that next Monday, August 31st. I'll be walking you through the whole month of September, everything I have planned. There is a cool collaboration cross-promo thing that I'm going to be doing with Patreon next month and somebody that you're very familiar with. So I hope that you're excited for that and that you stick around through the fall for that as well. On Twitch this week, you are here at Octopunk Weekly Update on Monday, but Thursday we are going to be continuing Telltale's The Walking Dead Episode 4. Really loving this game so far, and it just got good, even though we lost Doug, and now I have no will to live. I'll still continue with the game anyway. And on Friday night, because Maximilian will be in town, we're going to do Twitch Sings with Maximilian. Michael and JJ might be joining us for this as well. I'm not sure yet. Maximilian's the only one that I have confirmed, because I know he will be in my house then, but I'm going to touch base with Michael and JJ as well and see if they're in town then or if they want to come over for that. So it's going to be a big, wonderful party. Twitch Sings Friday night. Hope you're there. We'll probably be doing some amount of requests, but I might cap that to some degree because it can be a little crazy, and also because there are songs that we just want to sing on our own that won't be requested. So yeah, I might do what the lovely Ferrari sisters do and do like a limited request list that maybe people can pull from, stuff that we already want to sing that maybe people can elevate with bits or something. But other than that, I don't know exactly how that's going to work. We might just put on a concert of our own making and let people throw recommendations in the chat or something like that. And Saturday we do not have a stream at all because, like I said, we're going to be shooting on the road again. We're going to be shooting a movie, so no Saturday stream this week. They will resume next week with a 7 Deadly Sins, hopefully cast commentary and cast Q&A. So that'll be resuming next Saturday in September at noon Eastern. This week on YouTube, we have a lovely Detroit Evolution outtake that's already been posted on Patreon. This is Michael going on a very wonderful rant that I wanted to share. Additionally, on Friday, we have the 4th unused footage reel from Detroit Evolution. That is already up on Patreon as of yesterday night. It's a lot of Lotso content, as well as Chris, Ada, and Valerina content, and of course the Read 900 content you come here for and enjoy as well. This has got a lot of variety in it, and it's not sad. I will promise it is not sad. It is like the one unused footage reel so far that won't make you cry. And hopefully I'm going to try to also resume our Detroit Evolution music post, although I might do a synths one instead this week. I haven't decided yet. There's a lot of good stuff that Austin made for 7 Deadly Synths, and so I might start alternating and mixing in some synths musical tracks instead / as well. I need to still get it up on Spotify, both albums, because the way I did it originally, I uploaded everything. It was great. It took forever, but I did it, and then the distributor was like, you made one tiny little error in the title, and instead of letting me fix it and resubmit, they wanted me to completely start from scratch and upload everything and all of the metadata over again. So that's why I haven't done that yet, because it took like 3 hours the first time, and I just haven't had the will inside of me to sit down and do that again. But because I'm going to have to do it for synths at some point eventually, you know, in the next couple of weeks, I may go ahead and do it for DE as well while I'm on the task. So I do want to put them on Spotify and SoundCloud. It just is it's an effort. So yeah, let me see what else we got. Fan art of the week, of course. So we had a lot of wonderful fan art this week for 7 Deadly Synths. You guys really showed up for this. Thank you so much for that. And also just for the amount of memes and fan theories and love for the cast and crew. I really do appreciate this. This is our first real debut of something that was original from us, and I really do appreciate that you guys still are interested in seeing that kind of stuff, even if it isn't Detroit stuff. So thank you for that. I also really love seeing the fan theories and fanfic ideas. However, I will say, I'm stepping away for a sec. I will say, this is the first time where like I can't engage with that, because with Detroit Evolution, it was like, it's not my intellectual property. It's I don't own Read 900, so I can read your fics, I can talk theories, I can talk headcanons. But when it comes to Seven Deadly Sins, because I know that I want to make a feature out of it, and I don't want to spoil what's going to be in that feature, and I also don't want to let y'all influence what's in that feature, because it is kind of like, this is what I want to make. Yeah, I kind of have to like sit back and be like, all right, I'm gonna let y'all have your fun over here, but I have to be over here and not read your fanfics for liability reasons. So that's a little bit of a bummer for me, but at the same time, that is just reality when it comes to my own IPs like Paradisa and Livescream and Seven Deadly Sins. I really have to like take a step back and be like, okay, I can't engage with that, because I don't want anybody to like think that I plagiarized them or anything like that. Like, I definitely have outlines and stuff and like a vision for the future that you might guess, you might figure out. Some of you may actually know what I want to do with it. So yeah, feel free to write your fanfics, feel free to do your fan theories. I love seeing it in the Discord and stuff, but I unfortunately cannot participate, sadly. Anyway, on to fan art of the week. I can still enjoy fan art. I can still very much enjoy fan art, so I will. We have this wonderful art by Soror on Twitter. I love Soror's art every time, and this is no exception. There's just like such a pretty quality to their art and a sparkly quality to their art that I really enjoy. So go follow them on Twitter and check out a lot of the stuff they did for DE Art Fest as well. We still have some Detroit Evolution art. It was since week, but I wanted to shout out this one from actually Cheyenne on Twitter, because this is just really, really pretty, a really pretty interpretation of The Kiss from Detroit Evolution. Definitely check them out. I think that they might be kind of new. They said that this was their tribute to Detroit Evolution, so I'm not sure if they have really been talkative in the fandom before, so definitely go give them some love for this. The one and only Happy Kitty, Ronnie. This is fantastic embroidery work of the Seven Deadly Sins logo. I always get impressed when you guys manage to do stuff by hand with the logo, because typography is just, I have the worst handwriting ever, so I don't know how you guys do this. And also to get the gradient of colors and embroidery as well. So very well done, Ronnie. This is really wonderful. And this is an art form that you don't see a lot in fan art as well. I love Melissa R. Thompson's work, all of the comics that they did for Detroit Evolution. And they talked about maybe doing a parody comic for Seven Deadly Sins as well. And I think that this is a great start to that. Definitely go follow them on Twitter. The helmet is wonderful. I can't wait to have more fun with that in the future. And also just like, this is the feature, everybody. This is what the feature will be. It's just a yakety sax chase movie about Brian running from Seth with his synthesizer in tow. I gotta give any love to anybody who draws the side characters, and Jay the Blind Pirate drew this one of Strawberry Man. I had to tag Mike Amison, the actor, for this in this art, because I'm sure he'll be tickled when he finally sees that somebody drew art of him. This is one of my favorite jokes in the whole film, actually, that moment, and I really like that it landed, because I wasn't sure it would. It is actually based on something I saw happen in real life, so sometimes it's like that doesn't translate to film. You kind of had to be there. I'm glad that this was not one of those cases. I also find it funny that some people are already shipping him with Redbeard. I told Mike Whaley, who plays Redbeard, that, and he was like, well, clearly no, Strawberry Man is my father. So that's Michael Whaley's headcanon. You can go with that if you want. I like either one. I think all headcanons are valid. Either way, Strawberry Man loves strawberries, and Jay the Blind Pirate did a great job at this art. I absolutely love. There is no one better to draw Austin the bartender than Lone Lion, and this captured them so well. Another joke I wasn't sure was gonna land, even like when I rendered the movie that morning, and it seems to be the joke that landed the most, whipped cream noises and Austin the bartender being a standout of the film. Thank you for sending Shannon Strucci a lot of love for this as well. You met them back in June when we did our charity live stream. and definitely go follow them on Twitter at Plenty of Alcoves, and follow Lone Lion on Twitter as well and on Instagram. Ye Emotional sent some really, really cool stuff for Sense, and this is no exception. I love the colors here and the kind of like haunted, sort of like hypnotic vibe. I've said that Sense is a horror movie from some perspectives, and I've actually been pitching it to a lot of horror press outlets because I think it's a horror movie. And I love any art that captures that kind of like sinister side, that kind of like creepy side, and Ye Emotional did a really good job at this. I also love the fact that they made that Brandy Alexander look actually neon and very and actually like capturing the neon lighting in art. It's really, really cool. Sir Krillins, this one made me take a minute. Yeah, no, this is awesome. Dad Art Person on Instagram with a poster concept for Seven Deadly Sins. I really love all y'all's poster concepts. These are really, really cool because you know I'm terrible at them. So anybody who can make a cool poster composition is awesome in my book. And I also really love how the helmet is captured in the helmet designs too, the posterization. Really, really well done by Dad Art Person. Definitely go follow them on Instagram. A lot of cosplay for Seth, but this one made me do a double take by Nate Second on Instagram. It is amazing how many of you actually just deadass look like Seth. And this is a wonderful, wonderful Seth cosplay. A lot of detail put into it, and just a really, really accurate doppelganger of the character. So I don't know if they're in the chat today, but definitely go check them out on Instagram. There are a couple different posts by Nate Second that are Seth cosplays. So go check out all of the ones that are posted. Anybody who draws art of me is a friend of me, and the fact that I was drawn by Daphne Winchester was a really great honor. I love all of Daphne's work. We all do. So I was very, very touched by this. This is absolutely beautiful. I always appreciate when you make me look prettier in art than I do in real life, so thank you, Daphne, for that as well. And if you haven't seen Daphne's work, please go to Instagram and look at all of the wonderful stuff they have done. Like, just fantastic stuff for DE Art Fest, fantastic stuff for DE earlier in the year, absolute photorealism. They always make us look so, so pretty and so, so good. So yeah, this is just, I'm very humbled by this. Thank you, Daphne. And finally, some art of Roscoe, the predatory agent, by Intentional Digital on Instagram. Michael Smallwood looking like a badass there in this art and in the film. I wish that I had more Roscoe in the film, and I was glad that I had at least this moment in the middle of that montage to put him in it as much as possible. And I can't wait to show you guys more of what we have planned for Roscoe, because it's pretty wild, and I don't think it's going to be something anybody is expecting. And also Intentional Digital did a bunch of really awesome stuff for DE Art Fest too, so absolutely go follow them on Instagram and check out their whole portfolio of work. That's done for fan art of the week, but now let's move on to our 7 Deadly Sins Q&A. I see a lot of questions in the chat box already that I will get to. You can go down below into the stream Q&A box, put questions if you want, and also I'm going to keep an eye on the mod chat and see if they send me anything that's just put in the chat. But let's be nice to our mods and make their lives as easy as possible and try to put it in the stream Q&A box if you can. I don't know if it's optimized on mobile as well. If you can't get to it on mobile, you can put it in the chat. But yeah, I'm just going to keep an eye on this box here and start from the beginning. So what do we have here? Where do you get the Sense bracelets? I got them on Amazon. I think I got the choker on Amazon. I got Brian's asexual ring on Amazon. I got Brian's musical ring on Amazon. I think that's everything, because everything else was pretty much from the actors' wardrobes. I just curated it. So they just brought a bunch of clothes, and I just picked everything out. Seth's pants, we did actually have to go the day before and find, because for whatever reason, Maximilian did not own a pair of black skinny jeans or something. I don't remember what the deal was. But so we went on a hunt through like three thrift stores, and we were on a mission to find like size 28 jeans, which we ended up having to buy a pair of women's 28 jeans because that was the only thing that would fit him, because like everything else we were finding was way too big or like really too small, and we tried a couple of them on that were like way too small, and it was an adventure. But we ended up buying a pair from Exchange Factor, which is a vintage store. It's a really, really cool, like vintage retro, like thrift store here in Charleston, and that was a really fun outing. So, and then I think we also like we ripped them up on set, so all the tears and stuff were done on set. They came like normally like unweathered when we originally bought them. But yeah, that was the only stuff that was bought for the film. Everything else was just like the actors brought their wardrobe and they just showed me what I wanted to put them in, and I also like curated it. I guess the other thing was that the Godega shirt, like I had to make that. That was like an iron-on shirt that I had to make. I designed the Godega logo, which I think I can actually post maybe later. I have like a high-res version of the Godega logo. You can't really see it in the film, but it's a pretty funny logo. So I might end up posting that on Twitter later. Yeah, and Mom says we all had to wear black. That was the extras direction. I was like, I inserted all of the extras to come in like rave clothes or goth clothes or EDM or punk clothes. Some people went really, really all out for it. Michael Whaley, who played Redbeard, bought a full like goth coat for it, which is really, really cool. I think he might be wearing it for his wedding now. And Octomom does not have screen time because I think Mom didn't show up till like the final 3 hours of the shoot because I relied on her to bring us food. She had to pick up our catering and bring it to us in the evening. So, yeah, she was only there for like the last couple scenes of the night. Okay, so on to another question. Is there a story behind the Sense bracelets? So I guess the idea is that like Brian and Seth each have the same bracelet. They have matching bracelets. And in my mind, like Brian and Seth used to be really good friends when they were in a band together. And you know, they had the falling out when Brian got the record deal, but Seth wasn't offered it and Brian took it anyway. And so once that their band broke up and everything, and, you know, they had a lot of, like, personality conflict kind of leading up to that as well. Now they're bitter rivals. They're ex-bandmates and rivals. However, I think that, like, I like that the idea of the bracelets is that there's still, like, a little part of them that misses their friendship. There's still a little part of them that wishes that they could reconcile with each other, and they hold on to the past just a little. And I do like that visual link between them in the film that shows that they do have a past and they did have a I don't want to say relationship in the sense of it was romantic. It was never romantic or sexual, but it was a friendship. It was a very strong partnership. And yeah, so that's basically the story of the bracelets, and it is sad. It is a little sad because like their relationship is sad, like as it is now. So yeah, it's yeah, no, they were never lovers. I want to make that really clear. And actually somebody like called me out for this today, and validly, but I do want to reiterate this. In addition to being asexual, which is stated in the film, I do want to present Brian as aromantic as well. Brian has never had any interest in a romantic partner or a sexual partner. He is just completely like a very, very singular person. And very, very dedicated to, you know, his pursuits and himself. Unfortunately, I think that means that a lot of times he doesn't know the line between, like, friendship and stuff as well, but that's not, like, a result of any part of his identity. That's just, like, him being a very singular person. And so I do want to make it, like, really clear that, like, him and Seth have no romantic or sexual history. They were never lovers. They have no part of that history, and they will never have that part in the future either. It makes me uncomfortable when people like even talk about shipping Brian with people because in my mind he is aromantic as well. I wouldn't call it aro rep. Don't thank me for it because it's not stated in the film. And this is what like I was called out for because somebody was like, well, I wanted the aromanticism to be stated on screen and it wasn't, and I was disappointed and I don't feel seen. And I was like, well, you're valid. However, I'm also in this weird position of like, it's not representation. However, I do want to make it really clear that that is my intent, because I don't want people to shape this image of Brian in fandom before I do anything else with his character in the universe and get like this idea that, oh, we should ship him with this person, or oh, he could hook up with this person, because it's like, that's not what I'm going to do, and that's not his history either. I think it's really important to be like, all right, you know, this is who the character is. There's a lot of things about Brian that I know that I haven't even shared yet that I intend to carry forward in the future, but he did only have 3 minutes of screen time, so there's only so much to unpack in that running time. In a feature, would you want to show the Arrow aspect more? Absolutely. And that's kind of why I want to make it at least off-screen canon. And like I said, not necessarily representation, because I don't expect anybody to feel seen by that, because it's not in the film. But I do want to make it clear that that is the intent moving forward, because it does become an aspect of his story, and so does the asexuality. I think that, you know, he gets a lot of pressure from the record label and people like Roscoe, who are just like, oh, we should like hook you up with like some trophy babe or whatever to like get you in the tabloids and get you popular. And he's just like, I'm not interested in any of that. Like, don't change me to like be this rock star image that you think I should be. Like, my talent should be enough. My dedication should be enough. And that's a lot of his journey as a character, is having to reconcile the fact that everything that he identifies as is kind of in contrast to what society and what the industry wants him to be. And so this is why I'm kind of like, I think Seth and Brian are Deutero protagonist, but also Deutero antagonist in a sense, to where neither one is really a hero or a villain. They're just two people who have different experiences and who have like different ways of moving through the industry and different priorities. And they both do bad things and they both do good things, and they are at rivalry with each other. But really, at the end of the day, the true villain, I think, is the music industry. I think the true villain of this world is the synths themselves, and also the industry that makes it difficult for people like them to break in, or that wants both of them or either of them to change in order to fit some mold of what it means to be a successful artist. So yeah, that's basically like the dynamic in a nutshell. And I realized that like none of this made it to screen in the short, and that's just the nature of the running time. But because I do want to make this a feature in the future, and I actually have an idea for 2 features, I have an idea for a sequel as well. I think that this is all the things that if we ever get to make that movie, you can kind of prepare for. You can kind of expect me to prioritize, and like that's kind of the route that things are going to go. Let me check the chat for a second. Shit, Brian with inner peace. Yes, exactly. Now, as far as like hype for the feature, I will say measure your expectations, because it's probably going to be 2023 before we actually get to make it, because I have like 2 or 3 features I'm going to be working on in the next year and a half. And then like by summer 2022, most of those should be out of the way, and then maybe I can start working on synths, and then maybe you'll get a feature at the end of 2023 at the earliest. So we're talking like 3 to 4 years away at this point, which seems like a really long time. But if people have been waiting for Half-Life 3 for like 20 years, I guess it's not that bad in comparison. It's just, I do have a lot of stuff. You know, I just have a lot of stuff between now and then. And the main reason is, and I love that people have been offering to crowdfund it and throw money at me for it and everything like that. But this is a very expensive feature for me. I mean, in terms of Hollywood, it's super low budget. But for me, I mean, this could be like a $500,000 movie because of all the things that we have planned, all of the visual effects, the massive cast, all the different locations, and the synthesizers themselves are really expensive too. So I think that it's the production design element of the world that we want to build is very complex, as well as the art direction action and just this massive sort of populated world of very interesting characters off to the side and in the background of every frame. So it just is an expensive thing, and it's something that I know that we can't reasonably crowdfund. We really do need to have external finance. We really need to have a producer on board and studio support and that sort of thing. And I also have enough confidence in this world and this story that I think that this could/should be our very first theatrical release. Like, I really think that even if it's a limited theatrical run, even if it's just, you know, in some major festivals, then does limited run and then does some like streaming or something, that's still like the highest level that we will have achieved at that point. And I think that this movie has the potential to go this far. I don't want it to be something that we kind of half-ass and then it just gets put on Amazon Prime. Like, I really do want this to be seen and have a shot at breaking out and becoming more mainstream, because I think that it's got the representation, it's got a subculture that a lot of people don't know about, it's got a lot of commercial appeal, it's very fun, it's kind of like a Bill and Ted or like a Scott Pilgrim, but also Black Mirror in a way. It's got some cool elements, and it's one of the more original things that me and Austin have ever come up with as well. So I just really want to give it like the best shot that it has. I really want to not rush it and not half-ass it. I think that when you have something special, you should nurture it and, you know, give it the best chance that it can have. And so because those are our very big plans with it, waiting for like 4 years actually doesn't seem that long in comparison, because, you know, normally it takes a lot longer than that to get to that level and to accomplish something like that. So 3 to 4 years, if in 4 years you can be sitting in an Alamo Draft House watching Seven Deadly Sins anywhere in the United States of America, that would be pretty dope. So that could be really worthwhile in the long run, I think. Yeah, we don't want it to be like New Mutants, where, you know, you have to wait for 3 years just for the movie to already come out that's actually been made. Let's see what else we got. Is there going to be a sequel? I mean, I think I've addressed that. Yeah, like we want to make it a feature. And I do want to say that, so some people have speculated that, that since would have like a sequel, the way that Detroit Evolution was a sequel to Detroit Awakening. In reality, Seven Deadly Sins, the short, is actually part of the feature. It is the first 15 minutes of the movie in our minds. Basically, the full movie starts with Seth going to the club and realizing that Brian may have the Seven Deadly Synth, and that I'm gonna steal the synthesizer is sort of the inciting incident of the movie. So you've already kind of seen part of the feature in some degree. You've already seen like 15% of it, because that is the intent. And if we make the feature, we will have to reshoot all of this short and reimagine it and bring it to life again, which will be kind of strange. So you'll see it over again, but like reshot, possibly with a different cast in some roles, possibly with a different, most likely with a different location. So yeah, so that it is actually part of the movie rather than just set up for a movie that would take off where it left off. What was my favorite scene to shoot? Well, they all kind of blur together because we shot it all in one day, and all of the scenes were kind of here and there. I think, so going chronologically, I can tell you it wasn't the scene at the bar with Mag and Jared and Seth, because we were literally rushing through that like 10 minutes over time when we were supposed to be out of the location, so that was very stressful. I think I liked the bed stuff. Like, once we came back to the house and it was like, 11 p.m. We'd already been working like 13 hours at that point. We came back to my house to shoot all of the stuff with chartreuse in the bed and everything. I think that was a lot of fun, because the chartreuse thing was improvised. I do not believe that was in the script. TRA just like really took to chartreuse because he was laying in our bed and decided to use him for the scene. And that was basically the first instance of chartreuse ever making it into Octopunk at all, because chartreuse hadn't been shown on screen in anything we had done. Chartreuse hadn't made it on any live streams or anything at that point. It was after we shot Sense that we decided to start bringing Chartreuse into Twitch Sings and stuff. So Tiare is a little bit responsible for you even knowing who Chartreuse is because of that creative choice. So I think that was my favorite scene to film, because by that point we were all just deliriously tired and laughing so hard through everything because of Chartreuse. What was the funniest thing that happened when filming? That was definitely a lot of fun. I remember when we were shooting the Water for Brain scene, there were just like all these cops. Like, you just hear police sirens for like 5 straight minutes, and like we couldn't get through the scene because the entire North Charleston PD decided to be up our ass in the shoot. So that was pretty funny. I have like outtake footage of that and just Shannon completely breaking. I have a lot of really good outtakes. There's going to be a gag reel for SDS coming next month. There's some really funny stuff with both Shannon and Maximilian and Tiare. I think also, if you look in the scene where Seth is like, oh, he has a magic synthesizer, did you just smoke my ditchweed, all that, you can see Redbeard dancing in the mirror. And there are multiple takes where we started that scene and Tiare just broke. Or Graham broke, or Maximilian broke, because as soon as they sit down and start the scene, all of them can just see Michael Whaley in the corner of their eye, like goth dancing and shuffling out of frame. And I have multiple takes of them just completely breaking. They couldn't get through the scene. So that was pretty fun as well. All that's in the gag reel. There's a lot more where that came from too. So we had a lot of fun shooting it, I think. There is a lot of fun to be had, and a lot of just goofy mess ups that made really good bloopers. Do you have a favorite joke from the film, and is there one that we missed that you thought we would catch? Okay, so I do think my favorite joke from the film probably is the Strawberry Man. I think that's it just visually, it tickles me. I really think it's a lot of fun. It was my favorite one to shoot at the time, and it's difficult because it's been with me for 1.5 years now, and things that were funny to me then just aren't funny to me now anymore because it's been so much time. But I think that one's still pretty good. The other one that actually makes me laugh still is the shocked Pikachu face on Brian's helmet that literally just matches Seth's face immediately after. And the reason that still makes me laugh is because I just did it last week. I just made that decision last week to put that in, so it's still very fresh to me and can still make me laugh. There are a couple jokes that you haven't caught yet. They are subtleties. They are moments where it's like, if you really pay attention to the small details, or if you really stop and think about what is being said, there is some absurdity to it. And the one that I can think of off the top of my head that nobody ever seems to really point out, but that I always think is very funny, is when Seth says to Brian, "You always thought you were so great, all classically trained and shit." Because the concept of being classically trained in synthesizers is fucking ridiculous. So I've always really liked that line because what Seth is saying is absurd. He's not saying that Brian is classically trained and then became a synth musician. He's saying that he's classically trained in synthesizers specifically. So yeah, Nova says they were thinking about that before. So going to Juilliard for synths, absolutely ridiculous. This is a strange world that they live in. Hate those guys, always gets Pillow Cat. Yes, that's of course an Indiana Jones reference. For some reason, I always put Indiana Jones references in my movies. There's one in Live Scream as well, and I'm not even particularly a fan of Indiana Jones. It just kind of keeps happening. I don't even know if there's one. There might be one in the Detroit movies at this point. I really don't know if... I guess that I'll have to continue that trend in the future with future films. Brian has an internet degree in synths. Yes, exactly. We all know that we are going to see the Pride synth someday in the feature, but the Gluttony one, are we ever going to see it again? Hold on. Just a sec. I gotta delete something. There we go. Clean up this chat. Okay. So... You will definitely see the Pride synth. We know what it looks like. We have a concept in mind for its visuals. Gluttony one I thought was pretty clear from the montage that Gluttony kind of doesn't exist anymore. Like, Gluttony was scavenged for parts over the last 100 years because Gluttony is based on a harmonium, which if you Google is like a huge, actually, is that the word for it? I'm gonna Google this. Harmonium. Oh, well, no, harmonium might not be the right word. Big ass synthesizer. What does that bring up? First synthesizer? Austin, help. I don't know. I'm gonna look in the chat. Austin has abandoned me. The night precursors. All right, what do we got? The theremin? No, that's not it. God, Wikipedia is failing me too. Well, anyway, so it was a big instrument that was like one of the first synths that basically used electricity to make noise. And it was kind of like this giant organ, but it was like a giant organ that was a synth. So think in terms of like what an organ looks like and how built into a building they have to be in order to function. And that's basically what the Gluttony synth is. It's just a giant, giant thing that is built into a building in order to function because it needs so much power and stuff. And so it's not something that you can like pick up and move. It's not something that can kind of just be kept in somebody's house. It really is like anchored in the spot that it has been in. But once people found it, they did just sort of scavenge it for parts. And so that's what we see in the film, is that it's just being like picked apart. It's just being like, people are taking the keys, people are taking the insides and the guts and like incorporating it to other things. So I guess in a sense there are pieces of Gluttony synth in a lot of different synths or a lot of different things that are currently in existence because people have used its parts in other objects. But in terms of actually like seeing it as it is on screen, or as it was originally intended to be, it really is like a faded relic at this point. And then Lust was also the one that was destroyed. Like, it was destroyed by the Anti-Synth Society of Honorable Orchestras and Legitimate Entertainers. So they are kind of like an antagonist on the mission to destroy all of the synths. And they will definitely be making a reappearance as well as kind of an antagonist, because all they want to do is destroy synthesizers, because they do not feel that they are real instruments, and they are orchestra musicians who hate synthesizers. So yeah, those are kind of the two that are sort of lost out of the five, to my memory. Is Seth a sneaker person or a combat boot person? Definitely a combat boot person. I believe that Maximilian was wearing boots with that costume. I'll have to put a top to bottom reference for his cosplay, or for his costume at some point, but I'm pretty sure he was wearing boots. In future synth films, would you have the helmet made or continue with CGI? I would absolutely have a helmet made. Like, I would absolutely have a helmet made with a green screen as the face, so I would still have to do the actual, like, stuff on the helmet with the green screen, but that's so much easier than what I had to do, which was keyframe motion track every single frame of the actual helmet onto the head of the actor. So that was a big chore, and also it just looks more practical and looks more lived into the world when you have the actual object on the actor. So yeah, we would definitely be making that prop and then just using green screen for the actual, like, face. And yeah, the actor probably would be blind because of that, but you know, that's, at least they don't have to emote. Similarly, will the helmet be in the feature film? Yes. I think that I was debating on that, because it was kind of like, well, you know, it was one of those, like, you know, creative solutions to something in the short film, but that didn't mean that I necessarily needed to carry it into the feature. Brian is a character who has a lot of aspects of his identity and personality that are still kind of in flux to me. Like, I'm not even sure I'm not even sure what gender I want to make that character right now. So Brian very well could be female in the film. Brian well could be non-binary in the film. I'm not sure yet. It's going to just depend on what happens when I write it and what I feel like serves the story best. But yeah, I do think I want to have the helmet because I think that it was a lot of fun to work with. It was a lot of fun to be able to put that snide personality into what appeared on the helmet, and I think it brings out a bizarreness to the world that is a lot of fun. So I do think I want to keep it in the feature and kind of have that reveal of like who is under the helmet. There's kind of some mystery there too. So yeah, I debated for a long time. At first I thought that it was just going to be something I was going to do for the short, and then I could abandon that, you know, in the feature and just like do whatever I wanted. And because like I said, this is not going to be one of those situations where since the feature is a sequel to Since the Short, we're reshooting Since the Short for the feature. And so things will change. Things can change if we want. This was kind of an experiment to see what parts work and what parts don't. And if there was stuff that didn't work, we could abandon it and change it when we make the larger movie. And there are some things that I think I am going to change in the feature when we go forward and do it that I felt like maybe just didn't work in the short. But I do think that the helmet was one of those things where it's like, no, okay, I think it works. I think we can go with it. Brian's just a floating helmet in the feature. Has no body, only helmet. Brian will be cake. If the helmet wouldn't be in the feature, we would all riot. And I do also think that that's true. I think once we've made that character with such a distinct personality trait such as that, it'd be kind of weird just to not have it now that that's the character that you're kind of used to. Will the title screen Iggy always have a different sound for every film? I think at this point now it has to. I thought about using the one from Detroit Evolution in this one, but I was lazy and didn't look it up. So I went with what Austin gave me. I think that it always has a blah of some kind under it, but it's going to be different every movie. And sometimes Iggy's actual logo might change. The neon pink one was the one that we made for Seven Deadly Sins specifically, because before that we had the glitchy computer one, which is the one that appears in front of Live Scream and Psychoacoustics. And so it changed to neon when we did Sense, and I've just liked it, so I've just kept with it since then. But if we ever do another movie that the neon seems weird for, maybe I'll go back. Or if I like ever do another Live Scream, I'll probably go back to the more glitchy style. It just depends on what makes sense for the movie. We're kind of like Universal Studios, where it's like we'll just change the movie logo to however we want. And I got one more question in the box, but feel free to ask more if you want, or throw some in the chat. I'll also check the mod chat to see if there's been any collected from the chat, and then we'll go. How do you decide what graphics and text to put on Brian's helmet? So I think that for me it was just, I wanted to keep a variety. I wanted to keep something that also made it look like, the more real that it looked, the better. If it kind of gave it a glassy quality and a reflective quality, I really liked that because it looked good on screen. With the scene where Seth is staring at him from the crowd, that was probably the one I really had to think about the most in order to convey what I wanted to convey, because that was very much a scene where it's like actors making eye contact, you know, seeing each other and sharing nonverbal communication. And to capture that when you can only see one actor's face is really difficult. So I decided to go with the emoji route and then the game over, because actually spelling out what Brian was thinking in that moment was pretty necessary for that scene. And I think that both of those are just so snide, both of those are so smug, and both of those know exactly what they're doing to Seth and how Seth is responding to this performance, that was why I went with that route, because that was really important to convey in that moment, that Brian had said earlier that Seth would see what he was capable of, and Brian knows in that moment that he's won. Brian has known in that moment that he has achieved what he set out to achieve, and that Seth bows to his dominance on the synthesizer. So, yeah. Yeah, the helmet emojis were the best kind of fuck you. Yeah, I kind of wanted them to be, and I will tell you, like, one of the harder helmet emojis. So the scene with the water, that scene had dialogue from Brian, and it basically went a little something like, "I got a water for Brain," and then he comes up and he says, "My name's Brian, like I said that it was, why would my name be Brain?" And Shannon just stares at him and doesn't say anything. And he just sort of like rolls his eyes and backs away. And he's like, "Thanks for my shot of water." And then he walks away. And I thought about keeping that, but with the helmet, I felt like that version of the character that we've built with the helmet is a little bit more silent and stoic and not quite so just aggressively like sarcastic with dialogue. So what I wanted to get across instead was just like this silent communication of picking up the cup, seeing that it says Brain, having Brain on the helmet, looking up and just having Brian written on the helmet as just like a, there you go, like, my name is Brian, eye roll, and then walk away. I think that just keeping that completely nonverbal was more functional with the addition of the helmet, because the dialogue just seemed strange, like in that scene with the helmet. So yeah, that was the one that kind of changed a lot, and that's where I really had to lean into what was going to be on his helmet, because it's a completely nonverbal scene, and so it's the only thing that he has to communicate with. It's the only thing that he has to convey to the audience, sort of what the joke is, and that is that he's just he knows that they said Brain, and he hates himself for going up and answering to that, but he had to anyway, because he knew it was about him. Oh, hey, Blue Owls Medic, thank you for the gift subs. Welcome, welcome. Everybody give Blue some love in the chat. Welcome, Blue. We're talking about Seven Deadly Sins, doing a Q&A about the film that came out this weekend. I know that Blue loves Outrun stuff and loves synthesizer and retro stuff. That's Blue's entire branding is Outrun stuff. So hopefully that that inspires you to go check out Blue if you like Seven Deadly Sins. Would you say the Gluttony Synth could still function or influence with whatever powers it has when it is in pieces? I don't know. It depends on how you interpret the Legend of the Synths and how they work, because is it a situation where the synths are only possessed by something when they're intact, or is it something where the individual pieces of it have their own power? I don't know necessarily. That's probably something that, in combination of I don't know yet because I haven't written the story, and also I kind of know but maybe don't want to share it because I haven't written the story yet. But I would say that right now it's open to interpretation. You can kind of go either way with it depending upon what you might want to do with a headcanon or a fanfic or something. So I won't confirm or deny either of those things. I think that I know which way I lean and which way I might interpret in the future, but yeah. Doy asks, are the synths sentient? So do they kind of know what they're doing? I would lean towards no on that. I don't think the synths think. I don't think the synths necessarily have a will of their own. I think that they very much are. It's kind of like the One Ring in Lord of the Rings. Like, it really is kind of like this powerful object that is imbued with something that can empower the person who uses it and bends to the will of whoever uses it, but isn't something that in itself has its own, like, sentience or motivation, I suppose. I think that they are all cursed in some sense, and I think the reason that I can say that they don't have a will of their own is because they're very consistent in how they behave. I think if they had their own will, if they had their own sentience, they could perhaps change what they can do, depending upon, like they could refuse to work for certain people. They could change their abilities. They could use loopholes in their abilities. Like, if it was a genie trapped in a synth, that had its own, manifestation of its own will, it could potentially like make its own decisions. And I don't think that's the case. I do think that they are consistent. If the Envy Synth says that it does this and this is its curse, it will be that for everybody. And there is no sort of favorites between good people or bad people, or people who are using it for the right reasons or people who are using it for the wrong reasons. I think that it really is more just like the One Ring, where it's just like whoever has it, is impacted by it, and nobody is immune to it, and nobody has any more sway over it than anybody else. And this is me like kind of talking out my ass a little bit, because there might be a lore that says that the One Ring will refuse to work for certain people, and I don't know that. But as far as I know about that universe, that isn't the case. It's not just like, you know, the Envy Synth can dig its feet into the ground and be like, I don't like you, I'm not gonna work for you. It's like, no, it's the Envy Synth is the Envy Synth for everybody. And somebody said, yeah, Horcruxes from Harry Potter, or even the Deathly Hallows may be more accurate, because the Horcruxes are kind of like, the Horcruxes are all part of a person. Like, I think the Deathly Hallows are a little bit more accurate, because it's like they all have unique powers, and they were all created, you know, out of this mystical force. I will say I don't necessarily know how the synths were made, or where they came from, or who made them. That's something that we might have to explore in the future, or maybe just leave ambiguous, because I don't think any answer to that's going to be satisfying, especially because it's a silly world where all of the 7 deadly synths are from different eras, because Gluttony was in the 20s, Wrath was in the 40s, Greed was in the 70s, Sloth was in the 70s, and then later on, you know, you get to the later synths, which are like 80s and 90s, so you know, it's like they were made over a period of time, so it's not like one of those situations where they were all made at once, because they're all made out of different eras of synthesizers. So that's one of those things where it's like, it's a silly part of the lore, and it's part of the reason the legend of the 7 deadly synths is a silly concept, and maybe something that isn't actually true. I also want to leave it up for interpretation that these synths aren't real. That there is no such thing as a 7 deadly synth, that this is something that Seth chooses to believe in because he cannot deal with his professional jealousy of Brian in any other way, but to make an excuse and make up this story and just sort of fall into this manic state of being very, like, obsessive and being very, like, riddled with excuses for why Brian is doing better than him professionally. So I think that's also, like, if we're just talking about the short film standing alone by itself, assuming that, you know, maybe we never get to make a feature, I think that that's a valid interpretation. I like that interpretation. I do kind of want that to be a little ambiguous, that maybe Seth is full of shit. So, yeah, existential crisis. I love that. Let's see what else we got. All right. One more in the chat. Okay, let's see. Maybe is the importance that the person gives to the synths, the influence in general influences them over the 7 deadly synths' power. I do think that a person can utilize the synth's power to what they want to utilize it for, to some degree. I mean, I think that obviously, like if somebody found the Pride synth, which can control the others, they can then utilize the Pride synth for that purpose. In the case of the Envy synth, Seth uses it, or Brian uses it to make Seth envious. And I think that with something like the Greed synth, you know, somebody would use it. Well, you know, some of these synths don't necessarily have powers as much as they just have curses. And this isn't stated in the film, but it's something kind of fun. The Greed synth inspires the person who owns it to keep collecting other synthesizers. So if you are in possession of the Greed synth, you will want to collect a massive amount of synthesizers, and you want to have them all. It basically makes you like a Pokemon master. You want to have all of the synths, and that is like Greed's curse. And there's kind of like as far as I know right now, no real like benefit to greed. I mean, it's made of gold. It's a luxury item. It is an item that you can flaunt around and say, "Look what I have. Look at my status. Look at my power." That's its ability. But the actual mysticism of it is pretty much just negative. It's pretty much just a curse on the person who owns it. And sort of with envy, that's the other side of envy's coin too, is that every person who owns envy eventually wants to get rid of it because they only want other synthesizers, because it's like a grass is only greener kind of thing. They get the envy synth. All they want is the envy synth. They want to steal it because like they're envious and they want to have it. But as soon as they get it, they're like, oh, well, I don't want this anymore. I'm going to like give it away, or like somebody is going to come steal it from me. And it's the one that is passed around the most because it's constantly getting either stolen from other people who want it or sold and bought from people who get tired of it. So, does the person playing the synth get affected by it, or are they immune? Again, like it depends on the synth. I would say sloth definitely affects the person. Sloth is one where it's like you buy the synth with the intent to fix it, and then you never will. You will always be too lazy to actually fix it, and then it'll just sit around and collect dust. I think greed as well. You know, greed has the influence of making you want other synths. Envy, again, it's like envy has a double-sided coin because it has both a curse and a power. So like Brian is immune to the powers he can wield with it, but he is not necessarily immune to the curse of always wanting to get rid of it. Now, there is a loophole for why Brian isn't necessarily affected by envy synth. I don't know if you guys will figure out what that is. It's pretty evident if you read between the lines of the movie, especially in Brian's scenes specifically. But yeah, there's a reason why he can use it and get the benefits, but not actually be affected by the consequences of it. And so it'll be interesting to see if y'all figure that out. Yeah, so let me see if there's anything else. I've made it through all of the chat box questions. His helmet has magical blocking up. It's not his blocking powers. And you're on the right track. You're on the right track in this in the chat. Yeah, so it is because it isn't his. It's not Roscoe's. Roscoe is just the agent. But there is a larger power at play. There is a bigger villain here in the story. And like I said, the true villain of the piece is really not Brian, it's not Seth, it is the industry. And yeah, there is an element of, there's an element of bigger things at play going on, and that's all I really want to say. I'm trying to dance around because it's like I know like the direction that the villain arc and everything goes in, but yeah, the long and the short of it is that it is on loan to him. He's using it, but it is not actually his. Who it actually belongs to, that's the secret. It's not Roscoe, but it is somebody else's. And, yeah, that's the mystery. That's the character or the entity that, we don't know, on screen yet, but is a major part that I know. Is Redbeard the villain? Redbeard's the villain who got tired of being called violent goth shit. So, about Redbeard, yeah, Redbeard actually makes a reappearance later because Redbeard is actually a member of the Assholes. He is a violinist, so he hates synthesizers and is only there for grousing. So, yeah, like the anti-synth society of whatever it is, honorable orchestras and legitimate entertainers. Anybody who plays a traditional instrument in our universe is probably a member of the Assholes. And they do not like synths. They seek to destroy the 7 deadly sins. So, I think that that's all of the questions that I see so far. Let me just go ahead and check to see if I've been sent any more. I don't see any. Nope. And I've gone through all the chat questions. Well, as always, though, you can hit me up on Twitter or in the Discord if you have questions about Synths or any other things you want to know. Questions. I find it funny that most of these questions were about lore and not about the production process. I do have anything that I can tell you about the production process, although it really wasn't that interesting, I suppose, because it was very much just like, we did it in one day and we rushed through it, and I barely remember half of it because I was mostly just concerned about us falling 3 hours behind the entire day. But yeah, you can hit me up on Lady Tuano if you have any more things you'd like to learn about Seven Deadly Sins. You can leave it in a YouTube comment on Seven Deadly Sins and I'll reply. And thank you for checking out the movie and supporting it. And hopefully one day we'll actually get to explore all of these lovely headcanons and everything in a feature and a bigger film. But for now, we're going to be filming on the road again this weekend, our actual next film, and then you've got D.E. Noir coming in December. So that's basically what we've got on deck for the rest of the year. Hopefully you guys are excited about Patreon and Twitch this week. I hope to see you on Thursday morning for The Walking Dead episode 4, 10 a.m. Eastern. And as always, stay great, hydrate, and have a happy time zone.